Hey guys, if you're wondering if you can lower a bike without any special mechanic skills or without buying any extra parts for the bike, the answer is yes. You can just loosen up the triple clamps, just slide up the fork tubes, and the bike is gonna actually maintain the same handling character if you just lower it the same amount front and rear. So if you lower the sack on the rear and lower it here in the front, it'll maintain similar handling character. And I've just been out test riding it, and it's really cool because it doesn't even, I'll just turn the camera around here, because the tires, they don't even scratch on the top here, even if you bottom out. You know, usually the problem about lowering the bike like this is the tires, they might make contact with the underside of the fender. And the same thing for back here. It doesn't even make contact under the rear fender. So overall it handles really good for motocross and also enduro with this lowered suspension setting. And we also lowered the seat foam, just the standard seat cover and seat foam. We just had it cut off 3 centimeters or a bit over an inch. So totally we have lowered the position of the seat 42 millimeters, which is almost 2 inches, which makes a huge difference in how easy it is to reach the ground, and it handles very good, and it's more comfort inspiring when you're riding enduro. So good stuff, guys. And in case you have no idea how to do these adjustments, let's get back in the garage and I'll just show you how to do these adjustments with the basic tools, and you don't need any special skills. Okay, now let's have a look at the front suspension and talk about how you can adjust this. And you're gonna need a 10 millimeter socket or a 12 if it's an older bike for the triple clamp. And then I use a screwdriver here to stick in as a spacer here. And this is not a must, okay, but it's nice to have some kind of gauge so you have the same distance on both sides. So I decided to slide the fork tube almost all the way up to the handlebars. You can also basically slide it all the way up to touch the handlebars if you want, but then it's gonna get like a small mark here probably. So I used the spacer method. You can also use different sizes of screwdrivers and different tools if you want a different spacing here. So we lowered the bike both 12 millimeters in the front and the rear. That way we maintain the same balance of the bike, or basically the same effective sag. I also did a video about what effective sag is, or true sag as I also call it. Basically it has the same handling character or similar handling character if you lower it the same amount both front and rear. So that's what we did. So you loosen up all these 4 bolts until they're completely loose, and then you just grab it like this, and then you turn the tube like back and forth, and then it's gonna automatically move up. And this happens easily if the bike is standing on the ground without any center stand. So just let it stand on its normal side stand, and then it's actually easy to move around with your hands. Maybe you need 2 hands, but it's pretty easy. And then just remember to insert your spacer of choice up here. So in case you're wondering what the limits are for how much you can lower it, there's a couple of things to consider. So if you lower it significantly, like let's say an inch or more, then when you bottom out the suspension, it's gonna have the tire touching under the fender here and scraping the fender. So it's gonna make a funny noise and doing a lot of scraping if you lower it too much. So that's one thing to consider. But if you're a short rider, that's definitely going to be worth it, because it's not often when you're riding enduro or trails, you maybe never get close to bottoming out. So why not make it lower so it handles better and it's easier to reach the ground? And there's a tip for how you can lower it even more, and that is by installing bar raiser mounts. So if you can move the handlebars further up, you can also move the fork tubes further up and lower it even more. So by having higher handlebars, you can lower it even more in the front. And then you could also lower it more in the rear if you want to keep the same balance of the bike. You're only going to need 2 tools to adjust the preload on the shock, which will lower the bike. And before you do this, I recommend that you measure the sag on the bike. That's done by having a rider sit on the bike, and actually over here I measured from this edge, this corner right here, and then down to a point on the swing arm. It's nice to know how much you actually lower the bike, so then you can do the same measurement afterwards with a rider sitting on the bike. You can also even do it without a rider sitting on it. Then it's just going to be known as the static sag. Okay, anyways, let's get started. So I already did it on this bike, but now I'm going to show you how you can do it and how easy it is. So in here you have those two rings, and then you just knock this one loose counterclockwise and maybe screw it up about 5 millimeters. After that, you do the same thing for the bottom ring, which is the actual adjustment ring, and you just knock it like here, buck, 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 until it has moved up about 2 to 3 millimeters. Or you can also say 2 to 3 of these threads. You can also mark the threads and spray them with WD-40 to make it work even better and smoother when you do this. And then you can redo the measurement of how much lower it is and try to see how easy it is to reach the ground. And in case you wonder how much can you actually lower the rear shock, and there's a clear limit to how much you should lower it, and that is you should not lower it any further than you still have a bit of spring tension on it. And the way that you check that is by getting a stand like this one under the bike, and then you lift it up under the skid plate so there's no load on the swing arm or the back wheel. And then you can grab the spring with your fingers and try to move it up and down. Or look inside here and make sure that there's no gap between the spring and the bottom ring. And then once you're done with your adjustment, make sure that you tighten down the top ring clockwise and knock it on until it's seated firmly. Remember, don't damage anything when you knock on it. And then you're done with the rear suspension adjustment. Give it a like if you like the video and share with a friend.
To watch the full version of my advanced riding videos and support the development of this channel, click the join button below and become a member. And thereby you will get access to exclusive videos where I go through the most advanced skill levels and also explaining things from a physics standpoint, because I have a background in science and thereby studying physics, so I'm able to explain actual riding technique and the mechanics of riding, also bike setup, in a way that you don't see on many other channels. Also, I share my own step-by-step methods on how I track my own progress and riding technique development. So if you're interested in that, consider becoming a member and clicking the join button. And if you like tropical island holidays, visit fitcamp5.com for my 2-time TripAdvisor award-winning training camp, where we train fitness and action sports together while learning to live a healthy lifestyle and, maybe most importantly, have fun at the same time. And if you're really serious about improving yourself, you should definitely check out my full online courses, where I share step-by-step programs on how I developed my own routines over the last 12 years as a CEO, working in 4 different countries, while being a successful competitive athlete with more than 20 years of experience in fitness and nutrition. Check the link in the description for that. And in any case, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, be awesome, believe in yourself, and see you on the next one.